Hello and welcome back to the Shakey Sonnet Show. I am Tootight Lautrec, the drag laureate of the Sonnetarium, and here we are once again in the Sonnetarium at the bottom of the down staircase in the permanently sequestered remainder section of an unnamed local library, which may or may not have a couple of stone lions on the front steps, one on the north side of the steps and one on the south side of the steps. I don't know which side is the wrong side of the steps, but someone or something wants to keep them apart. Similar, I think, to our couple in today's sonnets, what I call the Love Martyr sonnets, Sonnet 124 and 125. So anyone who has ever been in, or anyone who's known anyone who's been in a relationship with whom their family or friends or the community at large does not approve, will be able to recognize the couple in 124 and 125. So these sonnets apply to anybody who's in a relationship that features a couple who are interdenominational, like Jewish, Muslim, Christian, atheist, any kind of set that doesn't quite mix, an interracial relationship, or perhaps an intereconomic relationship where someone is involved with someone from the wrong side of the tracks. Or, oh, I don't know, perhaps a same-sex couple who have a little bit too much in common. So any kind of relationship that could be likened to fortune's unfathered bastard child, as we have in these sonnets today. A love that's neither recognized nor sanctioned by family, friends, or state. So we've seen this imagery before of fortune's unfathered bastard in Sonnet 97, where even in the abundant joy or the memory of abundant joy hangs this ominous sadness. And I'll recap a little bit of 97 for you. The teeming autumn, big with rich increase, bearing the wanton burden of the prime, like widowed wombs after their lord's decease. Yet this abundant issue seemed to me but hope of orphans and unfathered fruit. So this idea of a bastard child, or a child that could be abandoned because it's not approved by the society at large, has come before, and here it is again in a much more straightforward and poignant way. And so even in the full fruit of their relationship, they still feel like they're not being approved, or their love is not approved. So there are lots of suppositions about sonnets 124 and 125 that they perhaps contain gobs and gobs and gobs of historical and political references, but my main source, Rollins, notes that none of these hypotheses can be proved about the historical or political significance. So I'll ignore them almost completely, because these sonnets work so well mourning the human condition in general and in highlighting the sadness of misunderstood, unsanctioned love in particular, that we don't need any historical references. We can understand them just as they are on the page. We can live in the present moment of the sonnets. Let's take a look. Let me read Sonnet 124 to begin, and then we'll take a deeper look into that, or a closer look into that. Sonnet 124. If my dear love were but the child of state, it might for fortune's bastard be unfathered, as subject to time's love or to time's hate, weeds among weeds, or flowers with flowers gathered. No, it was builded far from accident. It suffers not in smiling pomp, nor fails under the blow of thralled discontent, whereto the inviting time our fashion calls. It fears not policy, that heretic which works on leases of short-numbered hours, but all alone stands hugely politic, that it nor grows with heat, nor drowns with showers. To this I witness call the fools of time, which die for goodness, who have lived for crime. So the very first quatrain, if my dear love were but the child of state, it might for fortune's bastard be unfathered. If we considered our love as our child, no one would approve of it. It would be a bastard child that isn't sanctioned and isn't approved of. If So if our love were out in the open, one could even say the child of state, it might be disavowed as fortune's bastard. And who wants that? So it seems that at the beginning, the narrator is talking simply about, or a contemplation about himself. If my dear love were but the child of state. But by the time we get to the fourth line, it's weeds among weeds. We would be considered as weeds among weeds. As soon as that plural comes in, it's clear that he's talking about the two of them together. Our relationship, if known to the world, would be subject to either to love or to hate. You know, some of our friends approve and the world at large doesn't. And we'd be considered weeds by some, or we'd be considered gathered flowers by others. So the people who get us consider us as flowers, but the world at large may think of us as weeds. But we don't care, we learn in the second quatrain with it an emphatic no. No, it was builded far from accident. It's not by accident that we're together. It suffers not in silent, smiling pomp, nor falls under the blow of thralled discontent, whereto the inviting time our fashion calls. It doesn't suffer fakery. It doesn't suffer fools who smile at us or who pretend like they're okay with us and who really aren't. We don't care who smiles on us or who spits on us. Our love is ours alone, not the world's. And this sounds similar to Sonnet 112, no matter who calls it well or ill. So, and it didn't happen by accident. It happened because we love one another and it's intentional on our parts. It fears not policy or scheming, canny scheming, or any kind of fakery. We don't have to go through the motions of pretending to be proper and upright because we don't care about that. It fears not policy, that heretic which works on leases of short-numbered hours. All that kind of fakery can only last for a short amount of time, short-numbered hours. But all alone stands hugely politic, it's the two of us, that it nor grows with heat nor drowns with showers. So some heretic, someone whose views don't conform with the norm, we don't care about the norm because we are our own little thing. We don't recognize them. We have our own normal. Fuck the normals, basically. We don't have to pretend for anybody. Our love is true, rain or shine. It neither grows with heat nor drowns with showers. No matter what happens, our love is true love. And we remember Sonnet 116, which talks all about how love is true, that does not alter when it alteration finds. That's the love that we have. It does not alter. And the narrator is speaking for both of them now until we get to the couplet. And at the couplet, we get this very strange call out to the abstract universe. To this, I witness call. And to this, I toast a cocktail party vocabulary word, which we've had before, but you know, any chance I can take, I will take. So hyperbaton, which is an unusual word order to emphasize an aspect of the sentence. To this I witness call the fools of time. He could just say, I call the fools of time as witness, but he doesn't. This is also called not just a hyperbaton, but an anastrophe. So anastrophe, hyperbaton. To this I toast raise. Anastrophe. There we go. Okay? Hyperbaton anastrophe. Potato, potato. To this I witness call the fools of time, which die for goodness, who have lived for crime. Now this is quite an enigmatic statement. This who die for goodness and who have lived for crime. And here's where a lot of the commentators heap all of their theories about historical hypotheses and political hypotheses, none of which is sufficient to enhance my understanding of this sonnet. My interpretation is, if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. If our love is a crime, then I live for our love, and I'll die for our love, and I'll die for the goodness within our love. So that is my interpretation Others may agree or disagree, but it seems that this is quite a bone of contention among a lot of the commentators, so I'm sticking with my version. So this sonnet proclaims, "We are love martyrs. Nobody understands our love, and I love it." Sonnet 124. We move directly then to Sonnet 125, which continues the theme. Sonnet 125. Were it aught to me, I bore the canopy with my extern the outward honoring, or laid great bases for eternity, which proves more short than waste or ruining? Have I not seen dwellers on form and favor lose all and more by paying too much rent for compound sweet, foregoing simple savor, pitiful thrivers in their gazing spent? No, let me be obsequious in thy heart, and take thou my oblation, poor but free, which is not mixed with seconds, knows no art but mutual render, only me for thee. Hence, thou suborned informer, a true soul, when most impeached, stands least in thy control. And again, we get this proclamation to a slightly abstract entity in the couplet. But let's start with the first quatrain. Were it aught to me, I bore the canopy. A canopy is a piece of fabric held up by 4 poles, carried by 4 men, usually over the new monarch in the procession to the coronation. And there is a story that Shakespeare was given 4 yards of red cloth once, and some think that he may have been one of the canopy bearers over the coronation of King James I during his coronation. But there's no proof one way or the other. But the idea of carrying the canopy out in public where everyone can see you, you're performing the duties of state, you're a proper citizen. And were it aught to me means simply, do you think it means anything to me? The answer we'll find out is no. Were it anything to me that I bore the canopy with my extern outward honoring, so that everybody could see what a fine upright citizen I was? Or laid great bases for eternity? Think of those pyramids from Sonnet, I think 123. Laid great bases for eternity, which proves more short than waste or ruining. And these great bases, which will actually crumble to ruin and come to nothing at some point, much like any other kind of fake exterior, extern outward honoring, it doesn't mean anything to me. Do you think that matters to me now? Answer, no. Second quatrain, second question. Have I not seen dwellers on form and favor, these people who, are so proper out in public? Dwellers on form and favor lose all and more by paying too much rent for compound sweet, foregoing simple savor. Haven't they paid too much by being fake? They've foregone simple sustenance for these fancy desserts, compound sweet, foregoing simple savor, pitiful thrivers. I love that term. Pitiful thrivers in their gazing spent, looking upon the king and adoring the king and pretending that they love the king or the state or whoever might be in charge. So these very souls lose all and more by betraying them true selves, is what it seems to be saying to me. Trying to lap up luxury, licking boots when they could just live better lives with their simple savor, as true, honest, humble, simple tastes. And haven't we all seen these pitiful thrivers? The answer is yes, or it's implied yes. But then we get the no, which comes in the third quatrain, because it is the third quatrain. I love an emphatic O or no in a third quatrain. No to all that fakery that I've outlined above. No to keeping up appearances. And again, we have appearances, and what I've come to understand, and I think everybody has come to understand if they really have read all of the sonnets that come before, one of Shakespeare's obsessions is seeing and appearances, what appears to be and what actually is. It obsesses him, and it's a slippery slope as we go, but he's saying in the third quatrain no to keeping up appearances. So appearances again take center stage in one way or another. No, I serve only you. This is beautiful. Let me be obsequious in thy heart. That's quite touching. Let me pay only the duties that I need to pay to you, because your heart is the only one that matters. And take thou my oblation, or my offering, my gift, because my oblation is pure. It's not bling, but it's heart on a string, and I give it to you. Take thou my oblation, poor but free. And in my ear, of course, poor sounds similar to pure, and he's talking about a pure soul and a pure mind and a pure love. And it's not mixed with seconds, is what he says. Not mixed with seconds, knows no art but mutual render. Mixed with seconds, apparently, if you went to a bakery, or if you went to a miller, or whoever mills bread and gives you flour, sometimes they would mix it with seconds, not the very best flour, but a second best flour. And that's what this is referring to. Not mixed with seconds. My love is not mixed with seconds. It knows no art. The only art it has is mutual render, which is beautiful. Mutual render, only me for thee. I just find that this is the only exchange that's happening. I'm not doing it for anybody. I don't care about anybody. All I care about is you. You're the only thing that matters. And this is what I have to offer, me for thee. And then we get this couplet. Hence, thou suborned informer. And here we'll, because I need to wet my whistle, but also because I didn't know what the word suborn meant. So I looked it up. Suborn, to bribe, to accomplish a wicked purpose, especially to induce a witness to perjury. So suborn. Hence, thou suborned informer, get thee gone, anyone who would bear false witness against me for their own profit. I am a true soul. A true soul. There it is. A true soul, when most impeached, stands least in thy control, which is another way of saying, you have no power here. Be gone before someone drops a house on you too, I think. And it's a beautiful sonnet. Another turn in the couplet toward an abstract entity, but the first three quatrains are really quite beautiful. And it does make me wonder, this couplet, to whom is the narrator speaking? Is it his own dark conscience? Is it a rival lover or a rival poet? Perhaps the tattletale who told all about his chasing tail around town, who knows? Or maybe the beloved. I think it's not the beloved, and my guess is it's probably two or three. Perhaps his own dark conscience comes in there as well, because we've seen he has a lot to be concerned about. So, do we know if there is a gender specified? We do not. No honks today. It's anybody's game. It's a free-for-all. Dramatically, where would this fit in Shakespeare's oeuvre? And I would say any play whose relationship is scorned or threatened by outside forces, most obviously Romeo and Juliet, perhaps Othello and Desdemona, Hamlet and Ophelia, because Polonius gives Ophelia the hint that, Hamlet might just be out of your league because he's a prince and you're not. Or any set of lovers who feel the world just doesn't get our love for whatever reason, whether it's racial, interdenominational, tribal, economical, societal, same-sexual, or any teenager anywhere. I think we've all known someone who's been in this kind of a relationship before. And all I have to say to that is, me. We don't need the approval of outsiders. Nobody understands our love. We are our own true souls, and this is why I vow only me for thee. And remember, this is from the pen of the man who wrote about the course of true love never running smooth, and an entire play about star-crossed lovers. So this is ripe for dramatic potential. In almost all of the comedies, there's some sort of version of this here or there. And yet, what I find interesting is that the outside world still impinges. Even though we are our own cocoon of love, we are our own two beings, and we don't really care about what anybody says. We get a very strange view of the outside world, because in Sonnets 123, 124, and 125, they all, even while they're bemoaning, the narrator is bemoaning the eyes of the outside world, he addresses in belligerent vows and oaths the outside world. In 123, it's time. In 124, it's the fools of time. And in 125, it's suborned informer. And it's usually in the form of some sort of an abstraction, or something that's some person that's not identified. But the outside world impinges. You can never really get away from it. So that he shuns and recognizes outside forces all at once. So 124 and 125 are heart-wrenching, lovely, vulnerable, really sad, but mostly, I think, intensely satisfying. They feel sincere in that heart laid bare kind of vulnerability that they expose, and they may be among my favorite sonnets in this series. Well, wonders never cease. No, really, wonders never cease. Look around. They're everywhere. Pay attention. Until we meet again, I am Tootight Lautrec.